I so do not know how to use my camera. Okay, it's just gonna keep stopping and starting, so I'm just gonna go with it. I was talking about Joe and the Metro. He gave me 200, what they would do back then is Joe would give the bands, he was very pro artist, you know. He would give the bands 200 free tickets to promote your show, but the catch is like you cannot give out more than 200 tickets. I didn't quite well, I didn't follow that very well. I didn't think it would matter because I didn't think I would draw even close to 200 people. So I went to Kinko's and I copied the tickets on cardstock like they were 20,000. 20,000. And I got all my cute little girlfriends over and we literally spent a week, you know, cutting these individual tickets, 20,000, you know, and to hand out for free to people. And they looked exactly like the tickets that he had given me. Now the thing with that is, you know, the band doesn't exist. Nobody knows who we are. So I took about 100, maybe close to 200 EPs. I gave them to all the local, like, music stores. They call them mom and pop music stores. They weren't chains. And then I got my little friends, my cute, adorable girlfriends, and we all put our hair in pigtails and lots of glitter and just wore like little Sister Soleil baby doll t-shirts and little skirts and paraded. It was like the Sister Soleil parade. There were like 6 and sometimes 7 of us, and we just would hand out EPs and the tickets, and every time we went out we would go out for hours. People would just be like, who is that? Who is that? And it started to, people started to think that, oh yeah, I know who she is. I know who she is. Nobody knew who I was, but it created this kind of like, it was a really good marketing tactic. It worked. So we promoted like that for 8 solid weeks. Joe had built Sister Soleil, Catharsis Records, for, you know, with like 2 other really great bands that drew, you know, how to draw, so the room wouldn't be empty. And 200 of, over 200, or almost 200, it was something like that, ridiculous, my free tickets came back. He was pissed because there's no way you can hand out 200 free passes and then have them all walk in the door, you know. And 200 out of 20,000 is a different story. He was pissed, but not that much. He was just like, but it was sold out. The show was sold out. It was huge. My father came to see it. He didn't even know I had any of this going on, and he was like, where did all these people come from? You know, I mean, it was packed. It was like, I think it was over 1,200 capacity. So, and I had brought, this is crazy. I still, to this day, cannot believe this happened. I took with me about 700 CDs, all these boxes. There were 50 in each box, and I was just inundated with these boxes. And the little t-shirts that Jack paid to make, we sold out of 700 EPs in one show, a show that nobody had ever heard or seen us play before. That was huge. I didn't know how significant that was until much later, and I was like, wow, really, wow. So the labels didn't wind up signing the pretend band. They thought it was great, but they kind of wanted to see what was going to happen, you know. But they were impressed with how many people were there and how much merch we were selling. The thing, though, that happened from that show is that I did wind up creating a crew of people that stuck with me for quite a while. A manager and an agent, and my friends in the band pretty much stayed in the band, you know. We put together a really strong, we put together a really strong plan of action. We decided that we would tour hard as much as we can. Everyone had jobs, so what we would do is that we would work our 4-day jobs and then 3 days out of the week tour. We'd pick 3 territories. It was a kind of triangulation tactic that is almost, you know, passé now because of the internet. There was no internet back then, so you kind of had to create your own demographic. So you would pick a city and 3 cities, 3 territories that were relatively close together, that were within a 6-hour driving area from Chicago, basically. You'd play 2 shows in one area, you know, maybe like a town and then a suburb or something like that. Do the same thing in the next little market that was close, you know, and then do the next thing in a 3rd market. And so then every 3 weeks, you would wind up going back to each of these markets until you started to build a fan base. And then you could start bleeding it out a little bit. And then we picked up the pace and we wound up doing 3 and now 4 shows in a week. The band was super tight. We did this for almost 9 months solid. The money that, pretty much the money that we made from, you know, the EP sales and in conjunction with the people that were investing all this money into it, it was weird because Catharsis Records kind of became legit because I was doing exactly what a good record label would do. Put the band on tour. Build a fan base, you know, localize the markets and then bleed out. It became a monster. What had happened was, in addition to record labels talking to each other, I realized that radio stations talk to each other as well. Radio is difficult to get on board even as a record label. I mean, they would pay at that time, which I don't think is legal anymore, but was back then, promotion guys to use their relationships to basically get, use their relationships to get an act played on radio stations. So it was big business, you know. Well, my hometown, Chicago, was, you know, they were it was a big market. They were like number 3 in the market at that point, so it was not very conducive to unsigned acts, you know. It was a huge radio station, but there were indie shows. One was a guy named Zoltar, and another guy was James Van Ostel, and they had these independent shows, and they were great, and they played Sister Soleil as much as they could. But what did happen is when we were touring in Iowa, this woman named Sophia, who I pretty much, like, to this day, I will be forever indebted to this woman. She championed Sister Soleil. I mean, she took it herself and literally blew it up in the radio world. And that did it. That did it. It went from Iowa to LA, to this great public radio station called KCRW, to Chicago, that added it. And it was not a signed act. I didn't have a real record deal. This was incredible at that time, to have radio stations, a major market station, pick up an unsigned act and put it into rotation. That was relatively unheard of at that point. It was too much. It was overboard. I have a friend that once told me that my problem